Good evening. Today is August 11th, 2015. We're more than halfway through the summer. I always thought when I was a kid that when you got out of school until 4th of July, the summer took an awful long time to progress. And then once 4th of July hit, it just went like lightning right through until school. And I think as I get older, I feel even more like that. Before you know it, our kids will be back in school, which is, I know, something that parents certainly welcome. The kids don't, I don't believe. But I wanted to talk about a few things that are very important today. And what I want to try and do is explain where I think the city is right now and why this election period coming up is so important and why it's important for the city to become engaged in this election period and why it's very important that there be a series of debates regarding all the different races that are taking place in the city. I would think that in the mayor's race, for instance, there should be at least 4 debates between now and the primary, and then between the primary and the general election, 3. And why I say that is it makes sense to have them in each ward. It makes sense to have the candidates out there explaining their point of view, defending their records, explaining what they have done, and give the citizens a real opportunity to examine where we are as a city and where we're going. And I just want to share with you the 4 benchmarks that I always used, not only as a citizen living in the city, but also then as serving as your mayor in the city of New Bedford. The first thing I always looked at was public safety. We band together as a society in order to provide protection, mutual protection. That's what the earliest forms of government did, going back to literally the creation of societies. It was based on protecting each other. So the first thing that you want to look at when we're examining how we are in the city is how our police department, how our fire department, how our EMS is doing, how our water department is doing. We want to look at all the different areas that provide public safety, how sewage is doing. You look at it closely to make sure that we are in public health, that we are doing a good job. I think the men and women who serve our city do a fantastic job. I stand alongside the police department proudly, the fire department proudly, EMS proudly, our public health department, our inspectors, the water and sewer department. Those individuals work extremely hard. They are each day, depending on what they're asked to do, in many cases literally putting their lives on the line for us. So I feel very, very good about our public safety unit in the city. Now, as far as our statistics, I saw this week there was a stat that said crime is down. It's great to hear that crime is down, but if you are one of the statistics, then you're not concerned about whether crime is down. You're concerned about making sure that you don't become a statistic again. We have a situation in the city where we need to continue to work together, to work closely together in neighborhoods to make sure that we eliminate the sources of crime that we encounter. So that means working with the police department, being very, very vigilant in reporting anything that we see that's out of sorts in any way. We want to cut down, obviously, on the break-ins. We want to cut down on the violent crime. We want to make sure that we help the police take the guns off the street, that we eliminate the trafficking in drugs. We want to make sure that we eliminate the nuisance type of crime from our city. That takes citizens being involved. That takes everyone picking up the phone, calling 911, or using our technology that we have now, whether it's a smartphone or an internet, whatever it might be, connection, to let the police know exactly what's going on in our neighborhood so they can cooperate with us and act to keep us safe. I think that we have made real strides in fighting crime in the city of New Bedford. We have tremendous partners. We've partnered with just about every alphabet agency that you can think of in the state and feds to try and keep our city safe, but it's a job that takes place all the time. You can never rest on your laurels. We have very good leadership in the police department, very good leadership in the fire department. We need to support our leaders, and we need to continue to have them work with the citizens in order to keep our city safe. The toughest job in America right now is balancing everyone's rights and making sure we keep our cities safe. So I think in New Bedford, from a public safety perspective, there's always a lot of work to be done. There are always pockets of activity that you want to keep an eye on, or that you want to make sure that people who are breaking the law, and breaking the law in a serious way, end up leaving our city, ending up being incarcerated. We want to make sure that individuals, the opiate epidemic is absolutely raging throughout the country. We want to make sure that we provide people with every opportunity that we can to work with them to get them off of opiates and to have them get back into society in a productive way. So I think that it's certainly something that takes a great deal of work, but without cooperation from our citizens, it doesn't happen. Without backing our police department from the standpoint of giving them information, giving them support, cooperating with them, it doesn't happen. From the standpoint of day-to-day activities, I think that our citizens have stepped up dramatically over the past decade in making sure that we keep our families safe. But you cannot rest on your laurels when it comes to public safety. The other area that I always couple with public safety and have always paid a great deal of attention to as a citizen of the city is, what does our city look like? How does it present itself? How do our neighborhoods look? Now, I know people work very hard to keep their houses in good shape. There's always paint going on in the city. There's always a situation where people are trying to improve their specific house or neighborhood. The cleanups go on with Operation Clean Sweep. I think they try and set an example to keep our city clean. I think that as long as we don't end up with a pay-to-throw system regarding the separation between recyclables and garbage, and the containers that have been distributed, I think that's a great system, as long as it doesn't turn into pay-to-throw. And as long as we don't have people opening up our bins, making sure that some sort of garbage police is something that we want to try and avoid. Let's obey the regs, but let's also not have a situation where we built another bureaucracy around garbage and recycling. But I think what it comes down to now is that we have to begin paying attention in our city to the way the city presents itself. There are too many street corners where there are weeds literally growing up around the fire hydrants or around the telephone poles. Those need to be tended to. That's a city responsibility. You can't be driving through a neighborhood and have it look like you're out in the bushwhack. It's got to look like an urban area. It's got to present itself in a neat way. Now, I understand that there's curb etchings and things that need to be done, and people, when they tend to their lawns, certainly should try and do the edging of the grass that grows up in the cracks. But the fact is, when you come to a corner in an intersection and you see something growing that looks like we're creating some sort of city plant, that's a major issue. That's got to be resolved. When you have a situation where you're driving through the city and you see abandoned, thrown out TVs all over the city, that's got to be resolved. If you're not careful, you think the TVs are trying to take over the city. You think it's some sort of new robot or something. There are TVs all over the city. Those have to be picked up. The idea that we moved away from a system that, when I was mayor, within 24 hours things were picked up is not a good thing for the city. The person who puts out the TV, shame on them if they don't understand the rules and they don't understand how you have to call in. But the fact is that if you put out a TV on a corner, the person who puts it out should get some sort of citation and fine. But the rest of the city shouldn't have to look at it or wait for somebody to come by one night and throw it in the middle of the street. Let's pick those TVs up. The idea that we've got mattresses sitting out around the city is completely unacceptable. You got to pick them up. The idea that you got couches or all kinds of appliances and all kinds of extra rubbish and garbage sitting out in front of houses or out on a corner is completely unacceptable. We all pay too much in taxes to allow a few groups of people to go out and dump their garbage out in the middle of a corner or something, or out in front of their house or in front of their neighbor's house, and act like, well, that's not my problem. That's our city's problem. That's got to get picked up. As city employees go around the city in their pickup trucks, whatever, they got to stop and pick that up. Or they got to create a unit that goes out and picks it up. When I was mayor on a regular basis, I was out there on the weekends bird dogging and picking things up. It's unfair to the people of this city to have the city look like we don't care. We do care. So that's got to be cleaned up. Neighborhood revitalization means that CDBG money's got to go throughout the city. You can't park CDBG money in economic development. It's got to go out throughout the city. Any zone that's appropriate, that's where the money should be going. Shouldn't be going to subsidize salaries. You got to spend CDBG money, which is community development block grant money, in places where it's needed. And in our city, certainly there are many different areas that it could be used. There's the money from the federal government is going down. We need to make sure it gets out in the street, not in being dedicated to offices. So that's something that I think neighborhood revitalization needs a little bit of a shot across its bow to make sure that we're doing it the right way. Now we've got a CDBG department that wins awards nationally. We have the foremost experts in it. So what we need to do is make sure the policy that comes from City Hall is appropriate for why we receive our dollars. And that's something I think that the citizens have the right to request and demand. The other thing is when it comes to overall neighborhood revitalization, the little things, in fact, are the important things. And it seems to me paying attention to details. I saw the other day we filled in 10,000 potholes. Well, then we must have 20,000. So someone from outside our city says we filled in 10,000. We appreciate that guess. But we know there's a lot more work to do, and winter's coming again before you know it. So the crews that used to be able to do sealing of streets are unable to do it because they're out filling potholes. Pothole work has to go on a continuous basis, but let's face it, you judge our city an awful lot by the streets. And while our crews right now are out there and they're trying to do some street projects, the fact is that many of our streets need the repair. You can only go back and think about last winter and the plowing that went on, and think about the fact that plowing then turns into pothole repair, that plowing turns into making sure our city looks good, cutting down the weeds, making sure that it's appropriate, doing the forestry work. There's only so many people who can do it, but the priorities have to be right. The city needs to look very, very good. The other thing that I want to talk about for a moment is education. I know that schools are about to open up in the next 3 weeks. I believe our school department is really in a stressed situation. In spite of all the efforts that were made by the state, working with the administration and working with the school department, our scores really have not gone up the way anyone would have liked to have seen. Our school quality is not better than it was when we had teachers who had made their careers in New Bedford and worked very, very hard. Blaming teachers, changing teachers doesn't lead to good schools. You have to understand what the problem is, and this is absolutely urban education. There is a major problem in urban education in the United States, not just New Bedford. And if you base everything on a standardized test, if you blame the teachers when the test results don't come in the way you wish they would, wishing does nothing. Wishing does nothing. It's hard work. It's hard work in the neighborhoods. It's hard work in the houses. It's hard work understanding that the kids below the poverty line are the ones who are having the most difficult time in school, and it's because of all the different challenges they face. It's the kids who don't speak English as a first language that are having the most difficulty in school. If you, believe it or not, if you tested them or taught them in their native language, whatever it might be, they would do far better than certainly I would in trying to take a test in language that I took throughout high school and college. So in some cases we're setting up obstacles that in essence deem that people will fail. We've got to smarten up on that. We have to start educating each kid, each child, to the maximum degree possible and towards their aptitude, and let them soar. Artificial barriers like the MCAS or PARC, or now evidently they're doing an analysis of college-ready kids, and they're finding that 30% or more are not college-ready. Now they're finding out that test may not be accurate. Basing decisions on people's future on a couple-hour test is not the way that we're going to build a productive society that's loyal to our democracy. This is something that it's not just New Bedford's problem, it's America's problem. So the school department this year has to do something that it has not been able to do. It has to have safe schools. It has to have teachers that are fully engaged, and now it's young teachers so that they have the burden now of learning their profession as they try and teach our children. And instilling, getting back the confidence in our city, in our school department. That's a big task. I'm hoping that the teachers and the administration are going to be able to do that. But the idea somehow that we've turned a corner, whatever, you cannot in any way, if there was a flash and it showed that we were doing a little bit better in scores, that would be great. But you can't rest on your laurels. Every day it's sitting with your child, helping them do their homework, reading with them, making sure that they're respectful in school, making sure if they have any problems in school, they tell you, making sure that your child has the best opportunity to succeed, and succeed in circumstances in some cases that are very difficult through no fault of their own. So my feeling on education is, as it was every day, and every day I've lived in this city, education starts at home. Education starts making sure that every young person has the best opportunity to succeed through the best education possible. And we have every right to question everything that goes on in the school department, the budget, the hiring, whatever it might be. We're citizens of this city. Our outcome of the city depends on this school department. And then last but not least, and I will say we have, just as an aside, we've got some other great charter schools, private schools in the city. We should make sure that we are completely integrated with them, that we work with them, that we provide them every opportunity we can to succeed, because again, those are our kids. Now the last thing I want to mention is economic development, and these are again the four tests that I look at when I look at our city, when I look at my city of New Bedford. Economic development, my feeling is it has been flat. It's flat from the standpoint of we're coming out of this recession. The recession is over now according to the Fed 7 years ago. But we know economic development is still difficult. I understand that we are claiming that we believe that we are turning the corner regarding job creation. I hope that's true. But I think, again, economic development means being out there every single day, concentrating on the details, communicating, bringing businesses in, showcasing this city, showcasing everything that we have to offer from the city, and landing new businesses. They can be small businesses. I think it's great we have the small business over on Purchase Street at the old firehouse. Fantastic. 10 jobs. 10 jobs is a great, great way to begin. 3 jobs is a great way to begin. A couple of hundred jobs is even better. But the fact is you build it day by day, detail by detail. You make sure that our taxes are appropriate for small businesses, that our city is completely responsive to small businesses, that we cut the red tape to make sure that we can permit in an appropriate way that protects our people but also brings the businesses in. So I think it's going to be an interesting election period to examine all those different areas. The last thing I would tell you, which is extremely important for us to keep in mind, is where are we going with our budget? Where are we going with taxes? I know I don't believe in every year you go up 2.5. The idea of marching like lemmings for a 2.5 increase is completely inappropriate. And if anyone doubts that, we will see pretty quickly businesses and residents being unable to afford to pay taxes. So we need to make sure we keep taxes down, services up. That's how you build a great city. That's how you grow a great city. So I think that when I look at this period now coming up, this election period, I'm looking for people to present great ideas, but much more down to earth, let's get it done type of concepts than pie in the sky, lofty type of pronouncements. My feeling as to where this next few months is going is it'll be extremely important, dynamic, exciting, and everyone should participate. So those are my thoughts on where we are today, August 11th, 2015, and I hope the dialogue that we will see regarding these 4 important areas: public safety, neighborhood revitalization, education, and economic development.